Back at you with one more episode of Football Insiders. It's Dome Week. Michael McCleary, Argus leader, Jason Andera, Midco Sports, and it's Dome Week. We've made it. There are 14 teams that made it. It's a big week for everybody in high school football.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot going on in Vermillion this week, and that's for sure. So, I'm really excited. We're going to be up there a couple days this week, and there's going to be some great games.
I really have part of my heart broken right now because I have to make picks on these 7 teams, and I have fallen in love with so many teams. I feel like I'm going to disappoint half of you out there, but you know what? That just comes with the territory. It's part of our job, Michael.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah, there's really no other way to do it. Otherwise, yeah.
But we have lived up to our Football Insiders name. We have talked to the coaches, and we have done our best research, and we're going to pass that along to you here in the next half an hour or so. Let's start in 11 AAA, where Brandon Valley punched their ticket for the 4th consecutive time to the Dome with a win over O'Gorman. They did it with a little quarterback surprise.
Yeah, Noah Thompson, running out of the Wildcat. That was fascinating. I mean, it was an element of the offense that Brandon Valley really hasn't shown this year, and honestly provides some more intrigue going into a Harrisburg matchup that at the end of the season was not close. But at that time it was really just Jordan Johnson who could do the running. Now they got sort of this guy who's coming from the defensive secondary, obviously really good there, but he showed that he could do stuff on the offensive side.
Yeah, 100 yards rushing, and he didn't have to throw a pass, and he still had that threat. But it wasn't just Noah Thompson. They also cycled in their sophomore quarterback in Thuy, and then they had Lucas Slack back in, who hadn't played for a month. And I think this keeps Harrisburg on their toes a little bit, but I'm not sure if that's going to be the plan for Brandon Valley going forward. But literally, we don't know.
Yeah, well, the good news for Brandon Valley is, it sort of seemed like a cycle in the beginning, and then when Thuy threw that interception, Slack sort of took over. So at least they have that option where if a quarterback, obviously both of them are very young, so if a quarterback comes into the game and they're maybe seem a little bit frazzled by the Dome environment, you could make a change.
You can make a change.
And, that doesn't necessarily, take away from your offense because you're relying on the running game anyway.
I talked to head coach Matt Christensen a little bit about that quarterback cycle that they've run and how much communication it takes to get that thing done.
Coach Mike Zer's extremely organized. We got a call sheet that looks extensive, but it's all based on simple concepts that kids can master. The linemen can master it, and we can use all their strengths to our advantages. Like defensive linemen all have different strengths, so do other positions. And when we have special kids like that willing to play for each other and do what they're asked to contribute to a cause bigger than themselves, special things can happen and you can beat great teams like we did.
So yeah, that's something everybody's got to keep in the forefront of their mind. Harrisburg, on the other hand, does just enough to get past Lincoln. I mean, they didn't blow them out, but they had control of that game. And once again, they got off to a decent start, which is better than they were doing earlier in the year.
Yeah, I mean, Harrisburg should know by now that Lincoln plays them well. They had that first experience with the President's Bowl, and that might have been the first game this season that Harrisburg was actually tested. And it's kind of unsurprising, especially after a big win from Lincoln last week, that Lincoln's going to come in and test them again. But again, Harrisburg, like you said, the slow starts were the only thing that might have been the thing that would prevent you from thinking that this is the best team in the class. But if they start fast, I don't know who's going to beat them.
Yeah, and Jacob Knuth, didn't have a huge passing day. Andrew Walter was a little bit banged up, but he had a big running day, and he kept the offense moving when they needed to. Harrisburg gets it done. So here we go, rematch of last year's game. The last time they played, just a couple weeks ago, Harrisburg won 43-14. I don't know anybody, including these teams, that think we're going to have the same type of game this time.
Yeah, no, I do not think it's going to be that game at all. I mean, I think this is going to be a 2-score game at most. I still think Harrisburg has enough to edge out Brandon, but, Brandon has shown, obviously with last week, with some of this new elements of the offense, I would be surprised if after 3 touchdowns from Noah Thompson, they'd go away from that Wildcat look. But, he's going to continue to make really good plays on the defensive end. Brandon has a really, really good defensive line that's going to cause some trouble up front. If Harrisburg gets get some turnovers, I mean, this could be a really, really close game. But in the end, I think Harrisburg pulls out.
And last year in the Dome, they turned over Jacob Knuth in the second half and got to him. And I know this Brandon Valley coaching staff is trying to find a way to do that again. I think Jacob Knuth is another year more mature. He's got more weapons than he had last year with Lincoln Carlson. Titan Tryon has really stepped up for him. And, of course, Gavin Ross is the huge X factor for me. I was going to pick Brandon Valley in this game. I really was, because I think they come in with a lot of confidence. They're going to slow the game down. But then after further study, this Harrisburg team just has too much, and I think they'll avenge last year's victory or last year's loss. I'm taking the Tigers.
Yeah, and obviously Brandon and many teams around AAA have a lot of really young guys on their team. But that Harrisburg team, they lined up for senior day, and it stretched all the way across the field. So I think the experience wins in this matchup.
All right. Sorry, Brandon Valley fans. Going with the Harrisburg on this one. Let's move to 11 AA, where Aberdeen Central almost pulled off another upset. They went to Pierre, played with them. Pierre got a little lead, and then at the end had a chance to win it again before Pierre found a way to win. This Pierre team has just done that most of the year, except for that game against Brookings. They found a way to win.
Yeah, and I wonder with Aberdeen Central if, towards the end of the year they were just struggling with injuries and numbers, because, they looked like a completely different team in the playoffs. And, I don't think them playing close with Pierre is, a bad thing for Pierre at all. I just think Aberdeen Central was a lot better of a team than we expected. But yeah, I mean, Pierre with Lincoln Keenholz, I mean, he's going to be one of the best players on the field every single time he steps on a AA field. And, Pierre, they could put up points, but, they just, like you said, other than that one game against Brookings, where obviously Brookings went out in the first round of the playoffs, surprisingly, to that same Aberdeen Central team, I believe. Yeah, I mean, I just think they know how to get it done, and they continue to get it done.
And Yankton almost came back after being down 35-7 against T. They made it close, went to the last play where they got picked off in the end zone, but this T area team has really not had a lot of close games this year. That tested them a little bit late.
Yeah, that was a bit surprising. I mean, you look at the score at halftime, it wasn't really close. I believe it was 28-7. Yeah, and, T obviously added some points to that score, and, they got to that 35 number before Yankton started making its comeback. Right. So, it was almost preconditioned where, there was no way that Yankton was going to be able to come back into the game. But the way that they did, is maybe mildly concerning, but at the same time, T's another team that has struggled with their slow starts, and they got off to a really, really fast start, and that's how they win the game. So now being on both sides of those wins, I think that basically gives, you've seen everything that you need to see from T.
They have not played each other. Last year they were supposed to play, even though they're in different classes. The game got canceled because of COVID. And this year, they weren't on the schedule against each other, so this is a much-anticipated battle. How do you see this game playing out, Michael?
Yeah, I think the team that was promoted from Class 11A wins the 11AA championship this year. I'm picking T area. They've proven all year, just through all of their matchups, that there's not a lot of teams that are close with them. And I believe that Pierre is very, very close, but I think T has that extra edge on both the offensive and the defensive side.
In years past, this Pierre team was able to line up, and they were bigger up front than most other teams. This year, that's not the case. T area, their defensive line really rules the roost. They get it done. They got big dudes. Offensively, they've been really surprised by a great combination at quarterback and wide receiver between Cale Lundeen and Clayton Sattler. These guys are amazing, and it's so fun to watch, and I think they're going to have some big plays at the Dome. But on the other side, Pierre has come in, similar to this a couple years back in 2018 when they weren't really picked to do much, and they kept overachieving, and they've got the single best player in this game in Lincoln Keenholz. Everything's going to run through him. Even if Teague tries to make them one-dimensional, I don't think that hurts them because he can beat you in either dimension of the game. So I think Pierre is going to edge this one out. I don't know how, because on paper it looks like T is the better team, but I think Pierre is going to edge this one out. We differ on that pick.
Just a little plug. T area has only been a school district for 19 years at this point, and they've already moved up 5 classes. And I got a feature running in the Argus Leader later this week where you can learn all about that. So
definitely
look out for that.
definitely check that out. It's a team that has won lost one playoff game, I think, the last 3 years. A team definitely with great leadership, and it wouldn't surprise me if T wins. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But I am picking Pierre. Should be a great game. 11A, we've got a fun one, a rematch. This one was played about a month or so ago. Madison played Millbank, and no one has played Millbank as close as Madison did, and that's still the case, as Madison got a 9-0 win, a low-scoring game. I think most people expect this will be another low-scoring game.
Yeah, and that's sort of how Millbank plays. Madison has some tendency, at least in some other parts of their schedule, where they run up the score a bit because they're just that team, they're that type of offense. But at the same time, Millbank really hasn't given anybody any room throughout this entire playoffs, and I do not expect
no points given up the last 2 weeks by Millbank.
Yeah, I mean it's fascinating. It's like one of the more impressive defensive performances throughout all of South Dakota high school football.
Really?
So, I don't know if they could hold Madison off the scoreboard, but at the same time, I don't know if Madison can get 2 scores in this game.
Right.
Like it's tough to. It's tough to assume that they could just do something that no one has been able to do against Millbank, even though they are that top team.
This Madison team is a lot like Vermilion in the fact that they have a quarterback that can run the football. Jack Kratz for Vermilion was running the football. They were able to stop him. They were big play receivers. They were able to stop them. Madison, similar with Nate Rickey. He can run the ball. He can pass the ball. He's got several receivers. They just have a little bit more physicality, a little bit more size up front, this Madison team does, than Vermilion did. So I do think they're going to be able to crack the end zone at least once and maybe twice in that game. And can Millbank do the same to Madison? That's going to be tough because this Madison team statistically has the best defense in the class, even though Millbank has thrown up 2 shutouts in a row. I just think Madison will find a way to get this thing done. Max Hodgen has done a great job of evolving as a coach and getting people in the right positions this year, using Trey Smith as their goal line back, using Bruce Galdi when they need him to run, using Nate Rickey when they need him to run, and then defensively just being lights out all season long. I got Madison in a close one.
Yeah, and I'm picking Millbank just because I think
I can see it.
Yeah, I think in a battle of the Bulldogs, I think Millbank right now just has that defense that wins championships. That's the old saying, So I really think that Millbank can pull it out. This is obviously going to be maybe the closest game throughout all of these 7 games.
There's a lot of good ones, but you're right. This will be close because we know it'll be low scoring.
Yeah.
And Millbank, trying to be the first team since 2009 outside of the DAC-12 conference to win an 11A championship. We've seen a lot of T in Del Rapids and Madison's over the last few years, but Millbank coming from the Northeast trying to get it done. Move to 11B now, where Winter continued to dominate. They shut down a really tough team in Elk Point Jefferson, gave up a couple scores, but were able to just keep laying the wood down all game long. And Riley Orrell, Caden Keyser, Joey Cole, Aiden Barfus, all these guys kept putting up chunk yards after chunk yards to get Winter, home once again. A big win for them. Bridgewater Emory Ethan, on the other hand, had to hold off Beersford late. Beersford always close in these last 3 rounds. We're close to pulling off another upset, but Bridgewater Emory Ethan gets it done. And now for the 3rd year in a row, we see the same 2 teams in the 11B title game.
Yeah, and we got to give credit to Beersford. That was a pretty fantastic run on their part. Went into this playoffs not having won a playoff game in 30 years, and then they got 2. Yeah. So that was a really great run. Yeah. So that's a good Beersford team, and but Bridgewater Emory Ethan just they found the way to win. So it's How about this game though? They played 44-0 earlier in the year.
It seems like a long time ago. Probably a little closer this time.
Yeah. I think we've been talking about this all year long, where
we have been. Who's going to play them?
Who's going to play Winter? And right now, like Bridgewater Emory Ethan might be, they might be I think they've proven that they're the best challenger for Winter. But best challenger doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be in the game. So I don't know. This Winter team is just so dominant. It's really, really hard to even analyze this game without just assuming that it's going to be a 20-point.
My thing is Bridgewater Emory-Ethan has Kobe Kaiser, who might be the best player in this game, but they have one guy like that. I mean, Riley Andres can run the ball. They got some guys who can throw it, but Winter has 3 or 4 guys at that same level, and I think in the end, by the second half, Winter is just able to physically own this game. So I'm picking Winter.
Mm-hmm.
You are too?
I am too, yeah. So.
All right. First time we agree, I think, right? Yeah. No, we both agreed on Harrisburg too. Okay. Let's move to 9AA, where we got the 9 and the 11 seeds both having to win on the road throughout the playoffs to get to the Dome, but 2 teams familiar with making it to the championship game. Platte Geddes taking on Canastota Freeman.
Yeah, and obviously Canastota Freeman, they had that run a couple years ago where they made it all the way to the championship game.
Yeah, last year too.
They got it
done.
So, they're a team that's, they have this experience, and I think that goes a really, really long way when you're playing an opponent like Platte that's really, really close with you.
Yeah, Platte has been fighting through injuries a lot of this season. One of their best players in Caden Foxley has not been able to play down the stretch, but they keep finding guys and putting them in the right positions. I think they've had 9 different starting lineups this year, but now for the last 2 weeks in a row, Platte has had the same starting lineup, and they had to come back to beat Timber Lake on the road. That was a tough game, and Canastota Freeman, didn't have an easy time with Parkston either. So I think both teams are ready for a close game, and I see this one being a close one as well. How do you think this one plays out?
Yeah, I think this is going to be an extremely close game, but I'm going to pick Platte in this game in the same way that Canastota Freeman has that championship pedigree that maybe lifted them through the playoffs. I mean, Platte Geddes is the defending 9AA champions, so I got to give it to them there. They've been playing great down the stretch, and I think both these teams are really, really close to each other, but I think that experience winning a championship gives them the edge.
This Canastota Freeman team throws a little bit more often than some of the teams they've had in the past, which when you get to the Dome can really help, but I think Platte Geddes is going to keep this game under control because they have Grayson Hansen. He was the best player on the field last year in this 9AA championship game, and I think he's the best player on the field in this year's 9AA championship game. And for me, that always has a big tipping point if you've got the best player in the game in a 9-man football game. And that's why I'm taking Platte Geddes as well. We both take them, but again, we would not be shocked to see this game stay really close. And obviously, Canastota Freeman, when they get into a championship setting, they're right at home. So this will be a lot of fun.
And as we said earlier, we would not be shocked if any of these games go the other way.
We would not be. So don't add us. Save it. But by the way, Canastota and Platte played on the opening game of the season this year, and a lot of people had Platte favored in that one big time, but they played close. And I think this one is, it was a long time ago, but I think this is very similar. They've seen each other. They know what to do. Let's move on to top-seeded Harriet Selby area getting it done, 16-14 against their foes, DeSmet. And DeSmet had rolled through the season, number 1 in the polls most of the year, but Harriet Selby was the team that was a top in power points all year, and they actually had the tougher schedule. We had a chance to catch up with some of these Wolverines after their semifinal win game, and here's what they had to say.
Our goal since last year, we walked off the field in Harriet and lost in the semifinals to the eventual champion, and our kids since that day were committed to finishing. And we're working hard for 21 seniors that have graduated before this group of kids to finish some unfinished business, which is winning the last football game.
So the Nasty Nine got it done, and I saw some comments on Twitter afterward too that there's some bias to the southeast part of the state. Well, no bias. I think this Harriet Selby team has proven it all year long. I really thought DeSmet would play with them and beat them in the end, but Harriet Selby showed just how physical they can run the football.
Yeah, and I was talking to head coach Clayton Randall after the game, not after the game, earlier this week, and he said that DeSmet is a team that not only deserves to be in the game that they're in right now, but they could win the game that they're in right now.
Sure.
So this having all those undefeated teams go in that semifinal, this he was saying this might be one of the he's never seen a year where there's been this many good teams. And we're down to 2 undefeated teams left. So
and they move up from 9B. Let's just an aside. If they were still in 9B this year, they would be the heavy favorites in 9B. And, of course, they moved to 9A, and I kind of thought, it might be too tough of a competition for them this year. But they have proven everybody wrong and made it to the title game. They face Howard, a team that many think is the top team in 9A. They've passed every test that they've come across, including beating the number 1 seeded team in 9AA, Hanson, 26-0. Of course, last week they played against Wall, and Wall gave them a game. I mean, Wall played with them. Wall was going for the tying score with 2 minutes left in the game and couldn't quite get it done. Credit to this Howard defense. They shut down Wall in the fourth quarter, stepped up when they had to. What do you think about this Howard-Harriet matchup?
Yeah, I mean, that Howard team has been up there with DeSmet all season long. And then, in the end, I mean, these teams that have also been undefeated but have just stayed right below them just in terms of just, just conventional wisdom, I guess, about how these teams can play. They played them really tight, and that gets you excited about the future of 9A because it means that these teams are legit and they're all going to be playing against each other.
By the way, just while the future of 9A, Harriet Selby area has 3 or 4 seniors on the team, something like that, and Howard the same, about 4 seniors, and Wall, all their big time players are all juniors or younger. We've got some really good teams coming back next year too.
Yeah, and it was great to see them all play in this playoff matchup because they obviously didn't meet each other during the season. So once you get down to it, it was really, really great that they played such great semifinal games, and this championship's going to be so awesome. This is a great class moving forward.
Yeah. I just want to mention about Howard. Jace Seifort's come up big. He's their one senior who they've really relied on, but man, they get yards from Feldhaus and they get yards from Hoyer, and they get so many guys that they can plug in and make stuff happen, and they do it on defense as well. They got guys on defense that have stepped up. To me, the big key in this game is, can Harriet Selby, if they try to take out Brendan Begeman, can Harriet Selby find a way to make plays outside of Begeman? And I think they can. Trey Saylor is a stud, Saylor, and they threw the ball a little bit last week too. Gill made a big catch. I think that they've got some mobility to make things happen in the air through the dome, and that's what got Howard a little bit as Wall moved the ball through the air, and not many teams have done that this year.
Yeah, the question is, can they take away Brendan Begeman?
Yeah, can you?
It's nobody has so far, and I'm sure when you go into playing Harriet Selby area, that he's going to be the person who's making their plays. But he's I believe he's over 30 touchdowns on the year. So hasn't worked so far, and
maybe better on defense too.
Yeah, exactly. 12 interceptions this year. He's an unbelievable player, and he's going to be all over this game.
This just pains me. I can't make the pick, Michael. You make the pick on this one. I still have to think about it.
Okay.
Who do you got?
I got Harriet Selby area. I think Brendan Begeman's going to be the best player on the field, and I think that at these levels when the teams are so evenly matched, that's just enough to put them over the top.
Well, the nasty 9 is nasty, and I think they're going to come up with some big plays. And this is the best Wolverines team that I've seen over the past few years. But Howard is really good as well. And I came into the playoffs looking at Howard and it had them pegged as the top team in 9A, and I'm going to stick with that. I think Howard's going to find a way to get this thing done. It's going to be ugly, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be close, and I'm taking the Tigers. And sorry, Harriet Selby area. If I see you at the Dome, definitely let me have it. I don't mind. I can take it.
Yeah, definitely let him have it.
Yeah. Let's move to 9B, where we've got Potter County, one of the hottest teams in 9B, going against the other hot team in 9B, Del Rapids St. Mary. 2 teams that lost opening week and have really roared back since then.
Yeah, and it's pretty fantastic. I mean, these runs have been really, really brewing over the past couple weeks of the season, and then, they're just both getting it done. It's really cool to see.
This Potter County team rolled their way into the finals. Grant Lukens, their dual threat quarterback, has been putting up impressive numbers. They've got a lot of senior heavy players on this team. who have just been getting a little bit better every year, and this year they're definitely getting to that point where they can run or pass come this game. Del Rapids St. Mary has gotten away from the pass, and they've figured out how to run the football, and I expect them to run a lot in this game.
Yeah, and Nick Gasper's been playing great towards the end of the season. They've got a ton of people that could run the ball, though. Ty Brown has been playing great for them, and then they got some power backs too. Noah Oland. Oland is somebody who can run up the gut, and if they take that away, Nick Gasper and Ty Brown, they could run to the outside. So, they got so many ways to run the football, and I believe Gabriel Lindemann, is that his name?
Yep.
Yeah. So he started the season as a running back, and they've since moved him to tight end. And he's helping the blocking scheme. They even get him some targets every once in a while. This team just knows what they want to do, and they do it really well.
Yeah, and I also have to mention John Pica, their All-State defender, who has really had a tremendous year on defense, kind of really anchoring them on that side of the ball, and he's going to be a big role player in this game. As they face off against Potter County. Have you made a pick on this one? This one's close too. I don't know what to do.
Man, it's every single one of these picks have been really, really tough. And, I do want to emphasize again.
Yeah.
Do not get mad at us for picking against your team.
We're protecting ourselves.
We've
done the research, but we are not sure.
Yeah, exactly. But, I'm picking Del Rapids St. Mary in this game. I just think the way that they run the ball is just, it's so consistent. And, in a game like this, consistency is something that's going to pull through.
Yeah, coming into the playoffs, just like I said with Howard and 9A, I felt like they were the strongest team coming into the playoffs. I felt like Potter County was in the best position coming into the playoffs, and they have not done anything to, sway me the other way. So I'm going to stay with Potter County, and I think they're going to find a way to get it done. The Battlers, it's been a while since they've been to the Dome. Vern Smith's going to have this crew ready to go, like I said, with a lot of senior leaders. That tips it for me. Well, that'll do it for Football Insiders, but stay with Michael McCleary. You guys got always a lot of great championship coverage, and then, of course, the Elite 45 coming out.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really fun couple weeks. Obviously, championship now, but then we're going to be picking some of the 45 best players in South Dakota football, and that's obviously that's
challenge.
It's challenging, and it's something that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
We, of course, have Varsity Sports Live Friday night, so after you get done watching on South Dakota Public Broadcasting, switch it over to Midco SN, and we will take care of all the highlights from Friday and a quick preview of Saturday's game as well. And then next week, we bring you our Players of the Year for each class. We have a special show dedicated just for that. Well, all of you out there, I appreciate you. People have contacted us saying that they've appreciated having us on every week. And when you see us down at the Dome, make sure to say hi. I appreciate you watching. Till next year or next season, we'll see you.